One of the most common questions that I encounter when people are asking about their aquariums and fish tanks is how frequently they should change their water. Hey fish friends, how's it going? Hope everyone's doing well. My name is Zenzo and you are watching Tazawa Tanks. If you're new to my channel, hit that sub button down there. Hit that notification bell, that way you'll be notified when I upload new videos. So I've filmed videos before about water changes, why we do them, testing for nitrates, etc. I'll put a link up here with a couple videos or a video up in this area. But I continually get comments, questions. I read posts in Facebooks, in different Facebook groups about water changes, when to do them, how much to do, and today I'm not going to talk about the volume of water changes. In my video about testing water, I talk about the parts per million, and I'll make sure that that video is linked up here. So today I'm just going to talk about when you know it's time to change your water. So people say, how often should you change your water? Some people say I do it weekly, twice a week, once every 3 weeks. And the answer is there isn't a hard and fast rule for when you change your water. Every tank is going to be different. It depends on the tank inhabitants. It depends on the fish waste, how much you feed your fish, how many fish are in the tank, do you have plans, what kind of filters do you have, etc. The best way to tell when it's time to change the water in your aquarium is to test the water. There are a couple ways of testing water. You can get like the test strips, and these are the Tetra ones, and very simple. You open the top, make sure your hands are clean and dry. You take out a test strip, you dip it in the water for a few seconds, then you hold it up against the chart that they have on the label, and then that will tell you the ammonia level, the nitrite level, the nitrate level. It'll also tell you chlorine, it'll tell you GH and KH if you want to test for hardness. But basically, what you want to know is the ammonia, the nitrite, and the nitrate. Those are the most important things to know before you change your water. Another popular way to test water is with what we call a master test kit. It's a little bit larger of an investment. I've got a bunch of them laying around. This is kind of an incomplete kit here, but essentially you have these little small bottles that hold a chemical in there, and then you add tank water, you put it in a vial, you put the appropriate number of drops in there, and then you can test your water that way. So sometimes that might give you a little bit more accurate of a reading versus the test strips, but either one is just fine. I've used them both. I use them both. That's why I have multiple different types of test kits, and I use them in different situations. So what you want to do is you want to test your water, and when you see your nitrate level at a certain range, and again, it depends on what kind of fish you're keeping, so I'm not going to tell you exactly when to change your water. It might be 20 parts per million if you're keeping discus. It might be 40 parts per million if you're keeping African cichlids. Whatever it may be, that is going to tell you when it's time to change your water. So I wouldn't just pick a day and say I change my water every Sunday without testing your water. Now, what I will share with you and what I do myself is I will test the water in multiple tanks or all of my tanks at various periods of time. And once I know the routine and I know that after about 4 days, a particular tank might go from 10 parts per million to 30 parts per million, I will know that after that 4th day, it will be time for a water change. So as an example, like down here in the fish room, and we've got 28 or so tanks down here. So like I'll know that in this tank, currently with however many African cichlid juveniles are growing out in here, after about 4 days, I know that it's time for a water change because I've tested it multiple times. I feed the same amount of food at the similar time of day, again, because I'm breeding, etc. So I know without having to test that I need to change this every 4 days or so. And basically what I've done is I've gone through all of my tanks in here and have tested. So I know, for example, that this tank doesn't get as much water changes as this one. And the volume and the frequency will be greater with this tank than it will be this tank because of the bio load. It's a little bit less, even though I have a big fish in here. It's a larger tank, and I don't have as many nitrates populating in this tank. My 55-gallon grow outs down below, I have 2 of them, so I have 110 gallons right here. Those get high volume, high frequency water changes. I'm actually doing these about every 3 days now. Because the fish are getting bigger and they're getting ready to be sold, some of them. So all of my tanks are different. The Planet tank, a lot less, once every 2 or 3 weeks. That planted tank over there once every 2 or 3 weeks, maybe even more, depending on kind of what's going on and how quickly the plants are growing. So again, test your tanks, test the water. Don't just pick a day, but really understand why you're changing your water. Otherwise, you're just kind of throwing away water for no reason. You want to make sure that it's time to change the water before you're doing it, because when you do a water change, you are kind of upsetting the chemistry and the balance of the tank a little bit. No matter how careful you are in matching temperature and matching pH, etc., there is going to be a little bit of a fluctuation. So in order to keep your fish happy and healthy, don't change the water unless it's necessary.